Thank you, everyone, for having me. My name is Ludovica Labuna. I'm the CEO of MagneticTides. We are developing an innovative form of non-invasive brain stimulation. There are millions of people suffering from stroke every year, and 40% of them survive. So this leads to impairment that affect their daily life. And this highest cost is being reported by United States, with stroke management, including societal cost or health cost to survival. So there is a need, of course, of effective treatment for chronic stroke. Rehabilitation has been around for forever, but for chronic stroke, it doesn't really work. And there are a lot of companies that are trying to improve rehabilitation by doing technology to individualize the rehabilitation. But what really we want is a treatment that affects the brain and make the change in the brain. There have been a different approach that have been successful, like pharmacology, invasive brain stimulation, vagus nerve stimulation for chronic stroke recovery. But all of these approaches, in some way, have side effects. And so what we're really interested in finding in a non-invasive brain stimulation approach that will be impacting recovery in stroke. Now, I'm not going to talk with you about what is non-invasive brain stimulation, but I want to divide non-invasive brain stimulation in two big categories. One is electric conduction method, and the other one is magnetic induction methods. And we know that there is a lot of companies that have been successfully working in the field, and they have FDA-approved device for some psychiatric disorder or some neurological disorder, but none of these companies have been approved for stroke recovery. Why? Well, what we know about chronic stroke recovery for basic stimulation comes from non-human primate models. And we know that to be effective, the stimulation needs to have an intensity that is high enough to really have an impact on the brain. The stimulation also needs to target neurorhythms. And so you need to have a continuous stimulation that can really focus on the part of the brain that you're targeting. It's the combination of the intensity of stimulation and the flexibility of the waveform that allowed you really to make an impact on the brain and so have efficacy in stroke recovery. So why electrical stimulation and transcranial magnetic stimulation, they didn't have data to be FDA approved yet with stroke recovery? Well, electrical stimulation, they have the flexibility. There is a continuous waveform, but the intensity that they can reach a cortical level is too low, because increasing the intensity of the stimulation above a certain limit, 0.5 volts per meter, became unpleasant. So you have flexibility, but not intensity. Then we have magnetic stimulation. Magnetic stimulation is able to target the brain at high intensity, but the stimulation is not flexible, it's pulsed. So it's difficult to really target those neurorhythms with TMS. So intensity, but not flexibility. We think with MagneticTides, we have an innovative solution where we think it can be a potential game changer in stroke recovery. It's a new subthreshold magnetic induction method. We built 3 generations of the device, and the last generation, we can reach 8 volts per meter at cortical level. This means 16 times higher than it's possible now with electrical stimulation, and twice bigger of what is needed for stroke recovery in animal model. We're also able to deliver the stimulation in a continuous way. So we can target neurorhythm, we can do amplitude modulation, and we can target neurorhythm. So we have intensity and flexibility. KTMP has been approved as non-significant risk device. We've been running now almost 300 healthy participants, and we see that there is no sensation from KTMP. It's completely comfortable. We also have run healthy participants to collect efficacy data, and we have replicated an increase of cortical excitability with KTMP in 5 different studies. 3 of them have been published in eLife recently. We also have data on behavior. Frequency-specific effect of KTMP change the behavior, depending on which frequency you are stimulating with. What about stroke? That's really what we are interested in. So we're just starting, but we have collected tolerability data in chronic stroke patients. And I want to show you this video. I hope you can see. It looks like a picture, but it's a video. Participants don't feel anything. And if you compare this one with what a participant feels during TMS, look at the facial twitching. It's not pleasant. It's not comfortable. And KTMP doesn't do this one. It doesn't matter where you're stimulating, frontal lobe, prefrontal, cerebellum. What about efficacy? We are just, there is a lag between my presentation and there. We are just starting a trial in chronic stroke. We are just a small pilot. We are seeing all these patients are already doing motor rehabilitation in other facility, and we are simulating them to see if KTMP can enhance the motor performance. So we use a standardized test before and after 1 month of KTMP associated with rehabilitation that consists in small pinching movement, grasping to reach into movement. And I want to show you again the first patient that we saw, in which you can see on the left side, early session, on the right side, late session. And look how fluid is more the movement after 1 month of KTMP. Not only the pinching, but also the reaching, everything is much more fluid. And I can also have them telling us how more fluid their movements are. I only preliminary data on 2 patients. You are the first one to see it. And I could confirm that their movement is faster, is more fluid. But what is more important is the change in standardized assessment. That's what the FDA wants to see. That's what NIH wants to see. And we can tell you that after 1 month of KTMP, participants have an increase of what is called the Fugger-Meyer scale of 6 points. What does that mean? Well, a great company, Microtransponder, have a device, Vivstim, that has been approved as breakthrough device for stroke recovery. Great company, solid science. After 6 weeks of Vivstim associated with rehabilitation, there is an improvement of 5 points on the scale. But 78% of these patients had side effects. Mild side effect, moderate side effect, but 78% of this patient had. So invasive stimulation work, but is invasive. KTMP is the only non-invasive brain stimulation device that combines waveform flexibility and high subthreshold stimulation level. And is also very comfortable for the patients. So there is a rapid growth projected in North America for the stroke therapeutic market. The TAM is projected to grow to 25 billion in 2034. And KTMP is positioned to be the first breakthrough non-invasive brain stimulation device approved for stroke recovery. The founder of MagneticTides, me included, are neuroscientists, scientists from UC Berkeley. I have 20 years of experience in non-invasive brain stimulation. I was frustrated by no replicating study. I went to talk with Daniel Scholtro, he's a physicist. They work with MRI, and we combined our knowledge and we invented KTMP together with Richard Ivory. He's a professor at UC Berkeley, internationally recognized leader in neuroscience, and outstanding investigator from NIH. Including me and Daniel, now the team has 10 full-time employees with engineers and neuroscientists. We also have world-class scientific collaborator. We work with the UCSF, Professor Ganguly in a chronic stroke trial. We work with Duke University. Professor Pechevich is helping us with R&D on KTMP coils for stroke. but we also work with Professor Crystal at UCSF for anedonia, and with Richard Ivory at UC Berkeley. We are starting cerebellar ataxia trials. The KTMP project has been awarded almost 5 million on non-dilutive funding since the beginning. We started in 2019 as UC Berkeley employee. We formed MagneticTides, and we started the first generation of the device with innovative grants. We spin out in 2022, thanks to a direct phase 2 SBR, and build a second generation, collecting more data. And we've been since then very successful securing funding to go ahead. We are waiting for multiple NIH grant submission, but we are finishing the pilot in 2024 with the goal to do what I heard is a nightmare, to go through the regulatory process in 2025. We are also selling KTMP as investigational device. We got an order from Duke, from the Max Planck Institute last week. And keep building new generation and more clinical study. We hope to be profitable in 2028 on the market of chronic stroke rehabilitation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So you spoke a little bit about the market for stroke rehabilitation, and there have been previous players. Now you mentioned Vivastim, which, by the way, was one of the most successful products. In fact, was it 2 years ago that the Vivastim won the Gold Electrode Award for Best New Product. But before this, it was very difficult for entrepreneurs pursuing neuromodulation for stroke to get funding, in large part because of the North Star trial failure from many years ago. So the Vivastim was important because it showed to investors that, hey, wait a minute, this stuff works. And the truth is, the North Star stuff worked too. They just didn't give it. You know, the problem was, like so many of these trials, the placebo effect, and the wasn't enough to both the placebo arm as a sham stimulation, and the control arm and the active arm were getting good results. All right. But at any rate, so my question to you is, do you think that the investment community is sufficiently up to speed on advances and the need for new approaches to neurorehabilitation after stroke?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I've talked with people, investors also of Vivastim, and the market is huge.
Yeah,
there is space for everyone, and of course we can target in a different ways the problem. I think that there is such a need and an unmet need for stroke recovery. I mean, we are so successful with NIH because we are one of those topics of excellence in which they need help. So if we find a solution, I don't see why the investors should not be interested.
Now, you're probably aware that it's a smaller market, but there are a number of firms who are pursuing stroke rehabilitation using cortical re-education. Right, so stroke recovery systems you're probably familiar with, Zynex Labs. There's some European firms that have been pursuing this. How does your therapeutic approach mesh with or differ with those approaches that are basically doing cortical re-education?
I mean, it's a completely different animal, right? We are changing the brain non-invasively and from the outside. It's just a different approach. I don't think it's comparable, really. It's a different approach. It's very comfortable the way we're doing stimulation, and if the efficacy, so we are doing now like only 10 sessions, and we see these results. TMS is all about accelerating protocol, and think about making this patient come for 1 day and do 10 hours of repetitive TMS. It's painful. Yes. 10 hours of KTMP, nothing. You don't feel anything.
Do we have questions from the audience? All right, then I'd like to say thank you very much.
Thank